everything from what I wear to what I studied to where I live to how I make money to who I make love to screams Black liberation. Speaking of, what is one thing that most everybody loves but nobody wants to talk about? Especially if you're African, especially if you're a woman. If you're an African woman, that one, you must pretend that no, you hate it. You despise it. Sex. Today we're going to be exploring sex and taboo in African communities. Before we begin, it is my duty as a Christian woman to highlight that the Bible restricts sex to be within the confines of marriage. Now, back to our topic. I'm not suggesting that sex needs to become a dinner table conversation that is spoken of 24/7. But when we stigmatize it and we don't speak about it, then we're not properly informing the youth. And it becomes shameful. It becomes a stigma. Now, at this very moment, I'm sure that some Rwandan viewers are cringing. Hello, greetings, welcome. How do you do? The problem in African societies, both in Africa and in the diaspora, is that we don't talk about sex, as in at all. You pretty much figure it out on your own. And that can be very, very dangerous. Granted, the only way to 100% sure avoid STDs and unwanted pregnancies is abstinence. But although if you're in a marriage, it's also pretty safe. I'm saying pretty because you cannot monitor your partner's genitalia 24/7. But if you're still roaming the streets and figuring it out, you must really exercise caution. And that caution is not taught to you as an African person most of the time. You kind of wing it. Even for example, many people don't teach us that condoms, for example, are not 100% certain to avoid STDs or to prevent STDs. With human error, it lowers it to like 97, somewhere there. And so you have to really exercise a lot of caution. Another problem in our societies is that when we do talk about it, we talk about it only to a certain part of the population, to boys. Boys are encouraged to sexually explore as much as they can because when they marry, it's over. And girls, on the other hand, are encouraged to hold on to their virginity with their lives. So it begs the question, with whom are the boys meant to explore? But deeper than that, we're then creating boys who become men that lack self-control over their bodies. And we're creating girls that will become women that fear sex or are ashamed of sex, which those two things are problematic. Now, Guca Imyeyo. Repeat after me. Guca Imyeyo. Guca Imyeyo is a very unique Rwandan sexual practice that I wish to share with you. Although it's also practiced in some parts of Uganda or Malawi and other African parts, it's not unique to Rwanda, but the term Guca Imyeyo is unique to Rwanda, obviously. Guca Imyeyo literally translates to cutting sticks to create the broom. If you've seen the traditional African broom, it's made of sticks. Guca Imyeyo translates to cutting sticks for broom. Now, the reason it's called that is because this was a very secretive practice, still ongoing today in some villages. The reason it's called that is because this was a secretive practice that was done when the young girls would have wandered off in the bushes, in the areas to go cut the sticks. That is the time that they were being taught this. This was passed on from older women to younger women. If I'm not mistaken, it was from the paternal auntie that would pass it on to the young women. And the women that were being taught this practice would be pre-puberty, so teens. And basically the practice consists of elongating the female genitalia region, the labia minora. colloquially said, small lips of the genitalia, and this will be elongated. It won't be a one-time process. It's elongated over time, and my understanding is that it was measured using finger to know which stage you were on, and so it was elongated over time until it reaches a specific, until it elongates the length that's necessary. And the reason is that it was taught to increase sexual pleasure. Of course, sexual pleasure for the men, although some people say that it also increases sexual pleasure for the women. Now, is it true? From my understanding, it is a very it is a person to person. It's a matter of preference. Some people swear by it. People who grew up around it, for example, swear by it. Other people say that no. Although now in the cities and also with the westernization, with globalization, these practices are dying off, but some people still practice. Some see it as a very barbaric thing. Others see it as a beautiful random culture. Now, I must make this distinction between this practice of elongating the female genitalia in order to increase sexual pleasure. I must make the distinction between that and female genital mutilation. Female genital mutilation is of course very barbaric, because the goal of it is to sew the genitalia of the woman in order to ensure there is no sexual activity at all. This one is to increase sexual activity, granted for the man mostly, but I digress. So these two things are very different. Some experts have called this female genital modification, to not be confused with mutilation. Now, so there are no medical, from my understanding, my research and understanding, there are no medical issues associated with this. Yeah, so what do you think? Do you think this is a barbaric practice that needs to be stopped? Or do you think it's a beautiful culture that, you know, people should embrace if they wish? Yeah, share your thoughts below, especially if you have some personal experience. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you. God bless you. Murakababo. Kisses.